in a Billington Manuscript speech. Some of the best memories are made with family. I find this to be especially true when I'm around my loved ones. I've grown up in a big family where having gatherings and vacations together throughout the year was guaranteed. One of the most memorable experiences of my life happened during the week of June 15, 2018 through June 26, 2018, while I was on a family vacation. I've taken many family vacations throughout my 20 years of existence. This vacation in particular was very special though. It was my first ever cruise. About a year prior to this trip, my grandmother had asked me if I would like to go on a cruise with her and her siblings. She said that this trip would be my graduation present since I would be graduating a month before the trip. Of course, I accepted her offer. I would be the only kid, teenager, going, and this was a really cool idea to me. I had never really gotten to go on an adult-only trip before. It would only be me, my granny, and 4 of her siblings. Many preparations had to be made for this vacation. The thing that was of most importance was my passport. I made sure to get all of the work done for my passport filled out and sent out pretty early, because passports can take a long amount of time to get processed and mailed back. Luckily, mine only took a few weeks to get sent to me. I also had to make sure to have all of the clothes and supplies that I needed, like a new swimsuit, for example. After a little bit of shopping and organizing, I was pretty well prepared for my trip. Just a few months prior to our vacation, my Aunt Carla had pitched the idea of getting matching shirts made to wear on the cruise. She, along with many other people in the family, knew how much I liked to draw and asked me if I would be willing to design a shirt for us. I happily accepted and got to work. I spent probably a good 4 hours coming up with a cruise-friendly design. The drawing that my family liked best was one of a pirate ship with our family name on the bottom. She sent the design in, and we waited a few weeks until we got the shirts sent back to us. After all of the housekeeping things were done, all that was left to do was wait until June 15th, the day that me and my granny would fly from McGee Tyson Airport to Knoxville to New Orleans. The flight to New Orleans was really exciting. I had been on quite a few flights beforehand, so being on a plane wasn't a new experience for me. However, I was still very enthusiastic. I remember taking tons of pictures from above the clouds and enjoying the complimentary airline peanuts. When we landed in New Orleans, there was a car there waiting to take us to our hotel. The first night there, it was just my granny and I. The next day, my aunt and uncles would fly in and stay another night before getting on the ship. I had never been to New Orleans before, so getting a sneak peek of the city and the food was super cool. We didn't do very much the first night other than fitting in a meal at the restaurant and the hotel. The next day, the rest of the crew was there, and we spent the rest of the night conversing and anticipating the events of the next day. Early the next morning, we had a driver come to the hotel and take us to where we would board the ship. The process of getting to the location of the ship and actually getting on it was very long and tiresome. The wait did at least allow for excitement to build, though. Finally, it was time to board. The first thing that I noticed about the boat was just how enormous it was. Oh, and the abundant amount of food. Literally everywhere I turned, there was some kind of snacks or buffet. I would later come to regret this after spending most of my first day enjoying the unlimited amounts of food and occasional daiquiris that my uncles would get for me. Simply stated, I was up half the night, sick to my stomach, in a very small cabin bathroom. The first few days were spent at sea, so we mostly took advantage of all the activities that were going on around the ship. My favorite of which was probably the Hairy Man contest, and it's safe to say that it was probably my Uncle Kirby's favorite too. There were also lots of other activities such as swimming in the pool, playing mini golf, and even gambling in the ship's casino. After traveling the sea for a couple of days, we arrived at our first stop in Key West, Florida. One of the most memorable moments at this location was probably getting to take my picture at the southernmost point of the continental USA. We took a bus tour of the city, and one thing that I noticed was that there was a ton of chickens, like everywhere. Other than the chickens and the key lime pie, there wasn't a lot going on there. Our next stop of the cruise was at Freeport in the Bahamas. In Freeport, we opted to do a snorkeling excursion that was offered by the cruise line. We were taken out a good distance by a smaller boat, suited up with some snorkeling gear, and let out into the water. Getting to see all of the brightly colored coral and fish swimming right by my feet was definitely a noteworthy experience. I'd only seen fish like those in aquariums and movies, but getting to literally reach out and touch them was breathtaking. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring an underwater camera, but I'll still hold that memory with me forever. Our last stop was in Nassau, which was also in the Bahamas. We didn't do very much in Nassau other than some shopping. I luckily got to find enough free time to be able to snap a few interesting photos, though. I think my favorite memory from stopping here was being able to talk to some of the locals. I was particularly fond of this older street vendor who said that he had been growing out his hair for over 20 years. The next few days were spent on the ship, enjoying nightly family dinners and all of the activities on board. My favorite part of the entire trip, however, didn't happen until we got back to New Orleans. After getting back to New Orleans, we had a hotel booked to stay there for a few extra days. I fell in love with the French-style hotel that we stayed in. It was very old, most likely haunted, and had a step-down bath that was bigger than a hot tub. Being in New Orleans, I was introduced to a whole new type of culture. The food was different, the people were different, and the whole environment was almost the complete opposite of what I was used to. Everyone there seemed a lot more open and accepting compared to the people from my hometown. Getting to explore the French Quarter and the rest of the city was absolutely life-changing experience. Going on this family vacation was one of the most eye-opening experiences that I've ever had. Getting to spend time with my family, being introduced to different cultures, and getting to capture it all on camera was incredible. This trip made me realize how important it is to make memories with family, and also how exciting it is to travel to new places.